night was unusually still as Mark drove down the empty highway. The clock on the dashboard glowed 2:13 a.m., its pale green digits cutting through the dark. The radio murmured with nothing but static, a thin, restless hiss that seemed to fill the cab like mist. He twisted the dial, scanning for a song, a weather update, anything. But there was only silence and the occasional pop of distant interference. Mark was a long-haul trucker, no stranger to the monotony of blacktop and the lonely hum of tires on asphalt. His worn leather jacket smelled faintly of diesel and rain, the creases in it a map of countless miles. His eyes, shadowed from too many late nights, still searched the road ahead with the instinct of a man who'd seen his share of strange hours. But tonight felt wrong. The stillness was thicker than usual, almost tangible. It pressed against his skin like a damp cloth, and each breath felt slightly harder to draw. Then, without warning, the radio snapped to life. A woman's voice slipped through the static. "Good evening, travelers," she whispered. Low, smooth, intimate, as if she were seated beside him in the cab. "You are tuned to WRAE, the voice in the night." Mark froze, his hands tightening on the wheel. Ray wasn't a station he'd ever heard of. The voice continued, listing weather forecasts for towns he didn't recognize: Ravens Hollow, Birchfield Crossing, places that sounded like they belonged in old ghost stories. "Tonight's forecast," she said softly, "calls for heavy winds and whispers after midnight. Travelers, beware." A cold shiver prickled his spine. He glanced at the tree line, just black shapes swaying under the moon, no sign of life. He reached for the dial again, but the voice returned, smoother, almost coaxing. "Have you ever wondered what the night holds beyond the silence? Some say it reveals truths long hidden, if you know how to listen." Mark grabbed his CB mic to call dispatch, but the channel was dead. His phone screen flashed no signal. The minutes crawled by. The voice told strange little stories, snippets about motorists who had vanished along forgotten roads, people whose last known words were carried by the night air. Mark muttered to himself, "It's just a broadcast. Some creepy late-night stunt." Then her tone shifted. "Mark, tonight you face a choice. Keep driving, or listen and hear what waits in the dark." His chest tightened. "How do you know my name?" he whispered. "Because the dead air remembers," she said. "It remembers everyone who listens long enough." The radio crackled once, then fell silent. Mark stared into the road ahead. The silence was thicker now, like the entire world had stopped breathing. That's when he saw her. A woman in a vintage 1930s dress stood by the shoulder, her pale face barely visible beneath the flickering glow of a highway sign. She didn't move. She didn't even seem to breathe. Mark slammed the brakes. The tires screamed against the asphalt. When the truck stopped, she was gone. Only the faint sway of the sign remained, creaking in the still air. He drove on, the cab colder now, his breath faintly fogging the windshield. Around 3:20 a.m., the fog rolled in. It came fast, swallowing the road in pale sheets that glowed eerily in the headlights. The trees on either side leaned closer, their bare branches curling like fingers reaching for the cab. The radio hiss returned, but beneath it, a faint chorus of whispers. They rose and fell just out of comprehension, and every few seconds, he thought he heard his name. At one point, he passed an old, boarded-up gas station. In the broken window, for a split second, he thought he saw a figure watching him, its head tilting slowly, unnaturally, as the truck rumbled past. As the fog swallowed the road ahead, Mark caught sight of something moving in the periphery of his headlights. A slow, deliberate shape pacing him from within the tree line. It was too large to be a deer, its outline jagged, unnatural, almost humanoid, yet bent wrong in the middle as if its spine had been broken and badly reset. Every few seconds, it seemed to lean forward, its head tilting, listening. The fog thickened, and the figure would vanish, only to reappear again in a different place, keeping the same unnerving distance. Mark's grip on the wheel tightened until his knuckles ached. His foot hovered over the brake, but some primal instinct told him not to stop. In his side mirror, the shape darted closer, just enough for the faint reflection of two pale eyes to meet his. He blinked, and they were gone, leaving only the hiss of the radio and the soft, rhythmic tap, tap, tap against the passenger side door, as though someone was walking alongside the moving truck, keeping perfect pace. The fog thickened until he could barely see the road markers. He slowed to a crawl. Then, just as suddenly, the fog broke, and he saw the sign for a rest stop up ahead. Dawn was bleeding into the horizon when Mark realized he was no longer moving. His truck was parked neatly in the lot of the rest stop. He didn't remember pulling in. Blinking hard, he checked his phone. Signal bars glowed for the first time all night. He immediately called dispatch. The voice on the other end was groggy but sharp with confusion. "Who is this?" "It's Mark, Route 17, just outside." The dispatcher cut him off. "Don't mess with me. Mark disappeared exactly 1 year ago. On this date, same route. We got his last call at 2:47 a.m., then nothing. His rig was found abandoned at a rest stop. This rest stop." Mark's mouth went dry. "It's me. I'm not funny," the dispatcher snapped, and the line went dead. He stared at the phone, his pulse thudding in his ears. His mind refused to wrap around the words. Moving like a man in a dream, he climbed down from the cab and walked toward the rest stop's restroom. Inside, the fluorescent lights flickered above a cracked mirror. The smell of disinfectant clung to the air, sharp and metallic. Mark looked up and froze. The man staring back at him wasn't the one who had started this night's drive. His face was lined and hollow, deep creases cutting across skin that had aged decades. His hair, once dark, was a stark white, thinning and wild. His own eyes, recognizably his, yet sunken, looked back at him with a kind of exhausted disbelief. He touched the mirror. The glass was ice cold. For a heartbeat, his reflection wavered, rippling like water. That's it, and in that shimmer, just behind his shoulder, he thought he saw the faint outline of a woman in a 1930s dress. He spun around. Nothing but peeling paint and flickering light. Turning back, his reflection was still there. Aged, ruined. Mark stood frozen, a terrible truth clawing at his mind. Somehow, a year had passed, and he had lived every second of it somewhere the living don't belong. Outside, morning light crept across the parking lot, but its warmth didn't touch him. He was colder now. And from the radio in his cab, through the cracked restroom door, came the faintest hiss of static and the woman's whisper, "You are not alone, Mark. The dead air remembers." If this story unsettled you, leave a like and let the shadows know. Subscribe for more tales you shouldn't hear after dark. And if you've seen something you can't explain, Tell us in the comments. We're always listening.